Massless churchgoer settles lawsuit over 2020 arrests, calls liberalism a modern day cult. Idaho resident Gabriel Rench was awarded a hefty settlement for his 2020 arrest during the height of COVID-19 pandemic. Rench spoke out about his case Monday and argued his arrest was the result of liberalism and cancel culture. Rench was arrested in September 2020 along with two other churchgoers for not wearing masks to an outdoor worship service. The three brought the lawsuit forward the following year, alleging their First and Fourth Amendment rights were violated. The city of Moscow ultimately agreed to settle $300,000. I'm very grateful that I got a victory. How many people nationwide didn't get a victory? Rench asked Monday on Fox and Friends. He explained to host Pete Hegseth that he believes the settlement is the city's attempt to pay off a massive PR problem. Rench was arrested in the middle of a worship service. In a video of the incident, officers are seen taking a hymn book out of Rench's hand before leading him away in handcuffs, and you can see him there on the screen. The three were then detained for several hours. They violated my First Amendment rights in a small town, he said. And I think really what you're seeing in the city of Moscow is a microcosm of what's going on nationwide. The city of Moscow is known as a liberal college town, home of the University of Idaho, and an overall red state. Liberalism is really turning into a kind of modern day cult. They use coercion, they want power, and they have no real moral standard that is kind of fixed for them, he said. Rench then called out the city mayors for violating his own pandemic era mandates. Our mayor was breaking social distancing and masking rules. He went and played golf and drank beer with his buddies the day he shut down our town in March 2020, Rench claimed. He was officiating outside weddings a month before he had me arrested. And there we have it. And that's basically the super short summary of Gabe Rench's story. Now, Gabe Rench, he's been doing a lot of great things up in Moscow, along with all those Moscow guys. They've been really making some waves in the culture there in Idaho, but they are in a very blue college town. And so it was kind of crazy. The initial video that of Gabe's arrest went viral. I think President Trump might have actually tweeted it out in the middle of the lockdown. So it was absolutely wild to see that this even happened in America. This was at a time where, for me, I was just starting to really be woken up about the craziness happening in our world, and to actually see a man being arrested for exercising his freedom of religion was absolutely mind-blowing to me. I remember the sense of fear that overcame me in that moment, and I'm thankful that all this time later I have actually swallowed the fear and moved past it and tried to get active, which is what most of us should do in this instance. And I mean, major kudos to Gabe for having the fortitude to be able to go through this. And I think it's really important for us to even talk about this story because, everyone's focusing in on aliens and whether or not they're real. But it's important for us to celebrate a win because it's very rare, or at least it seems very rare, that we actually get a win on the sort of freedom side of the debate. But Ron, I wanted to turn it over to you to get your initial reaction to this article and Gabe's whole situation.
It happened. We got a settlement because it was Idaho. In New York, New Jersey, California, Oregon, Washington, he would not have gotten a settlement. And in fact, he probably would have been convicted and sentenced. I argued in front of a federal judge trying to get an injunction, actually on behalf of a group of pastors in southern New Jersey who challenged the COVID regulations prohibiting worship services, for all practical purposes, making them almost impossible. And we came this close to getting the injunction. We got a temporary restraint. We did get an order to show cause, and then the judge lost his nerve because he saw that the Supreme Court was not going his direction. That was before the change of personnel that took place. Mm-hmm. It's astonishing that he got a settlement. It's actually not a bad settlement either, $300,000. But it's much more important, obviously, from the moral point of view, and location. He was in Idaho, and the only reason that this happened was that the people in Moscow, in the aptly named Moscow, town of Moscow, Idaho, thought that they were in the other Moscow, and they forgot that they were in Idaho. I don't know how many more Idahos are left. States that were once considered to be conservative are turning purple and red. Going to my earlier point, but it's outrageous, and I give him all the credit for doing the right thing, and for sticking it out, and certainly his lawyers deserve. Lawyers. I will tell you, I had a client in a famous case who is a very big celebrity, and everyone is, he likes to talk about how he won this case. He didn't win the case. I won the case. and he's so these guys, they should, I'm sure they're not even mentioned in the article. These are often thankless, although in this case it probably wasn't thankless because there's a nice settlement there. But it's an important outcome, and both on the COVID on the COVID piece of it, which was nonsense almost immediately. It was obviously nonsense from go, and certainly on the First Amendment point, outrageous. And also very distressing how many law enforcement officers went along with this.
Yeah,
and would go along with it tomorrow again.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wish that weren't true, but sadly, it was shocking to see the amount of blind compliance from law enforcement officers. Michael, I wanted to turn it over to you to get your initial reaction to Gabe's situation.
Well, I think it can be summed up. There's a sentence in the article. It says, Gabriel Rench was arrested in September 2022 along with 2 other churchgoers for not wearing masks to an outdoor worship service, which I think summarizes the situation and highlights the absurdity of it in its origin. The fact that took place in the first place is horrendous. And he said something, he was quoted in the article, later in the article, Gabe said, yeah, sure, it's a small win, but how about all the other people that didn't get a win out of this, right, and were otherwise suppressed or manipulated by authorities? And more have we seen of that through Canada or other countries, even aside from the United States. We've got an Australian guy in the chat on Rumble who's been discussing some of the issues that he's encountered in Melbourne. But yeah, like you said, it's good to get a win, but it's hard even for me to not feel like it's a small band-aid on a large wound.
Yeah. Sarah, what was your initial thought?
Well, first of all, I feel like it should set a precedent. I mean, if he win this because he was able to prove that his constitutional rights were violated? Is that essentially how he won?
Yeah, and different articles covered a little bit more of what the actual ruling was, but I believe that was essentially what it boiled down to.
Okay, so in my opinion, it should set a precedent. I mean, if he was able to win based on his constitutional rights being violated, then this should be true for everyone that has been arrested or been for wearing a mask outside. But I just also want to point something else out.
But it was a settlement, Sarah. It was a settlement.
Okay,
so yeah. Then one of the reasons that you settle is to avoid a precedent being set.
Oh, okay. All right. I see. But can I also just point something else out real quick? Connor, can you bring the article back up really quick? Because I want to point something out. Can you go to the picture where he's being arrested? Okay. If you look in the background, this is what is blowing my mind. If there was not any other kind of, I mean, if this is not a message that says we don't care about the science and we don't care about your actual health, we only care about you doing exactly as we tell you to do. If you look at the amount of people outside who are not wearing masks. It's absolutely unreal to me. And I was looking at some of these other pictures as well, where it showed group photos of in this article, it showed group photos of multiple people in the worship session, outdoor worship session, who are not, look there. Look at how many people are not wearing masks. Why was he singled out?
Well, I do know that Gabe is a pastor at Christ Church in Moscow, and I think they may have been the ones that initiated it. So I honestly think this is one of the instances of they were trying to bring down sort of the ringleader in this situation. I could be wrong on that. I'm sure Gabe would be more than willing to correct us on that front, as he's doing kind of a media tour right now with his settlement, and he deserves it. But
Yeah, I'd love to know, because if this was a matter of health, if this was truly a matter of health, then why was he the only one arrested? It blows my mind when I saw those
well,
photos.
you can see there was the little dots that they had painted, and essentially the city painted the dots so that they can do their psalm sing if they were to stay on those dots. And I believe what happened leading up to his arrest is Gabe basically said that he's not going to do that, and I think he put his arm around someone from his church while they were singing, and that's what led them to take his hymnal from his hands and put him under arrest and take him in. And that's just insane that even happened in the first place. But you're right. I mean, it's absolutely not consistent. But the reality is, it's just a matter of it's just them flexing what they can get away with.